God, as we gather together tonight, we pray that you are honored, that you are glorified, that you are lifted up, that you are celebrated for the things that you're doing. And that, God, you would fill us up and speak to our hearts tonight as we seek to meet with you. And for that, in Jesus' name.
God, we know that you'll never fail us. God, we need you. We need you to take our hearts and mold them, God. Take us and use us for your kingdom, God. Use us to move and use us to reach people that normally wouldn't be reached, God. That's our prayer, God, that you use us this week. In your name I pray. Amen.
I was going to say have a seat, but you already did that. Hey, I'm going to pass around these buckets here, and in these buckets are an envelope. I'd like you to take an envelope. Don't do anything with it. Just hold on to it, okay? We'll talk about this later. Man, it's so good to see all of you. Guys have a good Labor Day weekend? Yeah. Several people I talked to stuck around here. Some went home. So, well, I have to admit, I admire a lot of people for a lot of different things. So, take an envelope that's being passed around. Hold on a minute. I admire a lot of people for different things, and people that do courageous things, I admire. And I don't know what it is, but I was talking with Kate Gardner. Where's Kate? Raise your hand, Kate. There she's right here. Right here. And Kate told me, I said, what did you do this summer? She was telling me about things. She said, my dad and I went skydiving. I actually have a picture. That's her. Skydiving, which is like so cool. She's telling me all about it. And the part that I remember her telling me in detail was that like the first 45 seconds of the free fall, we were just falling, right? Anybody else been skydiving? Okay. Yeah. Pretty. And all the rest of us, like, maybe would like to, but just don't have the courage yet. And the first 45 seconds was the scariest. And, you're free falling. But she said it was the scariest, not because she was free falling, because she couldn't breathe. And, I don't know if the air was coming at her so fast or that her mouth was open. One of the other. And, but she just couldn't inhale or exhale, I assume, right? So she couldn't wait to just be able to take a breath. But I admire people that just do like courageous things. And as I think about like courage, there's different types of just being courageous. And in the sense that there's the jumping out of a plane, right? There's the bungee jumping, the rock climbing, just think of the acts that just take courage that many of us go, wow, that's cool. There's also the kind of like courage when you take a stand for something, right? And that takes courage, right? Or you speak up, you step outside your comfort zone, you stand up for something, you take a social risk, and both of them take a risk, just different types of risks. I read an article from this magazine here, from Alliance Defending Freedom, next picture, and there it is. And this young lady is on the cover here, Bernadette, and she's a college student just like you, goes to Fresno State University, and she decided that she was going to start an organization on her campus called Fresno State University Students for Life. It was a pro-life organization, and had two members, her and another person. And they did their first event, and nobody showed up. Can you imagine? They did their second event. They just put hundreds of posters all around campus, just raising awareness and seeing if people would come that shared maybe their same passion for pro-life. And no one showed up. And so she was rather discouraged, and was getting to the end of the year. She was trying to think of how she could hand this off to somebody else. But there was one more event that they had to do, and that involved sidewalk chalk. And they got permission from the university to put drawings and words and messages all throughout areas on campus. And so her and her friend got up really early to put sidewalk chalk and just pro-life messages all around campus. And they had finished, and she was packing up all her chalk, and a professor came up to her and just told her that he did not appreciate what she was doing or the messages that she was putting down. You imagine a professor coming up and just in your face. And he said that he was going to come back and erase her messages. And she said, well, you don't understand. I have permission. Like, she went to the university, got all the right channels and permission, and he didn't have anything with it. He went over to a group of students and started talking to them. The next thing you know, she looks up and all these students are going around just smudging out all her artwork and so forth. And she didn't know what to do. And she didn't really think. She just got her phone and started to video this. And I mean, she was so courageous. She just started going up to the students and asked them, like, why are you doing this? And who told you to do this? And the professor told us to do it. So we're doing this. And she even like went up to the professor and has this like argument like with this professor where she said, I have permission to write throughout the campus. You know, and it's free speech, and I was given permission from the university. He says, well, I'll check on that. But he said this, and pretty much, quote, well, you have the freedom to put it down, I have the freedom to take it up. Does that sound like free speech? No, it doesn't. So she was just at a loss. She was so discouraged. And she let her regional coordinator for Students for Life know. And that lady got her in touch with Alliance Defending Freedom, which kind of takes up causes like this and defends people who are in situations like this. And they let her know. I said, you can file a lawsuit. And she didn't do it for herself, but for freedom of speech and for the right to be able to do something. And so she filed a lawsuit. And 6 months later, do you imagine this college student suing a professor? Didn't sue the university, sued a professor for the vandalism and so forth, and not recognizing her rights. And this professor just must have not been a nice guy, you know. So he lost, and they settled outside of court, and he had to pay all the fees for lawyer fees and court fees, and then he had to. I thought this was good. He had to attend First Amendment right classes. Okay, so that was pretty funny. To which he said, I will only show up for 15 minutes of that. To which he held to his word. He only showed up for 15 minutes and left. To which then the Alliance Defending Freedom reopened the case and pressed charges again, or just continued the case because he didn't fulfill his. And so they fined him even more, and they made sure he went to class. Altogether, $17,000 it cost his professor. But more importantly was Bernadette, who stood up for her right and just was courageous against opposition. And you can watch the video on YouTube. It's been viewed by thousands of people where you can see her video. But even more so than that, President Trump then signed an executive order giving free speech to university campuses because of this whole ordeal, which we do have the First Amendment right, freedom. And man, I just look at that, I listen to that, I read that article, I'm so drawn into it because I'm in awe of her courage to do the right thing, right, and to stand up for her rights and to defend what she believed in because she had that right. But as we think about this, I don't know, I think there's part of us that hears stories like that. And there's part of us that wants to make a difference. She made a difference. There's part of us that wants to make a difference in the world. And I believe that whether you're a Christian or you're not a Christian, I think that God put in all of us the desire to do good, the desire to stand for something, the desire to make a difference, to have purpose and meaning in life. And as we think about that, as I think about that, I oftentimes know that, especially when I read her story, I go, what would I have done if I was in her shoes? There's this inner tension oftentimes that I face, probably you have too, to when given the opportunity to make a difference or to take a stand or something, there's well, let me just take the easy road, let me just take a pass on that, or let me step out and take a risk in that. And oftentimes it's the courage it takes to step out and take a risk that we're fearful of, and maybe we pull back from. This semester, if you're new, this is your first time here, this semester we've been talking about Mission Possible. And we've been showing this graphic here, just saying that we all have a mission. That God has given us a mission unique to us, our gifts and our abilities. And what we find is that God has a mission. His mission is that the name of Jesus be spread and that people would come to know God as their personal Savior. And we get to join him in that when we take our passions and our abilities and we look at the world's needs around us, and the intersection of that is your personal mission and is my personal mission, and where I find that. And as we've been talking about that, we've looked at some people in the Old Testament. First we looked at Gideon. If you remember, Gideon was given a commission, a mission from God to go wipe out the Midianites who had been oppressing them. And God shrank his army really, really small. And in essence, God said, will you trust me? Will you trust me? And we asked the question, what do we need to trust God with that day? And I think trust is where it starts. Trust and is where it starts for our mission. And then just last week, we looked at Moses. And Moses, we know that just a great man, but early on when he was asked to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, he just had excuses after excuses, 4 excuses that he had. And we said, excuses are just a cheap imitation of the truth. They are. They hold us back in so many ways from moving forward, from believing the truth, and from making a difference. Well, today we're going to continue this, and we're going to look at the guy who follows Moses. His name is Joshua. And Joshua, he's the guy who comes on the scene. Now realize that what happened from Moses, we talked about his excuses. He does end up leading the Israelites out of Egypt and into the desert. They spend 40 years in the desert. And during that time, God takes care of them. God gives Moses the 10 Commandments. And in many ways, people have said they spent that time in the desert because God was getting Egypt out of Israel, out of the Israelites, meaning they were so accustomed for 400 years. They knew the Egyptian gods, their customs, and he was getting all of that out of them so that he could be their God. And he could establish them in the promised land. So what he had promised their ancestors, their forefathers. So once Moses passes away, God then picks Joshua to be the next guy to lead them into the promised land. And that's what we're going to pick up here as we look at Joshua. And on day 1, he gives them his mission and he gives them some advice. And this is what he says. It says, after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' age, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now then, you and all these people get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land I'm about to give them to the Israelites. I will give you every place where you set your foot, as I promised Moses. Promise Moses. Your territory will extend from the desert to Lebanon, from the great river of Euphrates, all the Hittite country, to the Mediterranean Sea in the west. No one will be able to stand against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Be strong and courageous, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their ancestors to give them. Be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey all the laws my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may be successful wherever you go. Keep this book of the law always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Man, God gives them a mission. And there's 3 things here that I see are outlined in these 9 verses. The first thing is God gives them a promise, verses 1 through 5. He says, this is what you're going to do, and you're going to be successful. Can you imagine that? God just said, whatever you do, wherever you step, you're going to conquer that land. and I will always be with you. You will be successful in what you do. And he outlines a promise for Joshua. But then comes verse 6 and 7. He gives him a charge. And this charge is to, hey, be strong and courageous. Don't listen to your fears. Don't listen to your excuses. I want you to be strong and very courageous. 3 times in 9 verses does God tell him to be strong and courageous. And then the third thing is God tells him to be committed, to show him commitment. The commitment to the law, right? He says, as long as you obey me, as long as you do what the law says, as long as you're faithful to me, I will be with you and you will be successful whatever you do. And Joshua was successful. Wherever he went, if you read the rest of the book of Joshua, you'll see whether it's Jericho, and they walk around the city several times, if you know the story, and then on the 7th day they scream and all the walls fall down. I mean, just an act of God. Or they just move into this territory, that territory. They took over kingdoms and kingdoms and kingdoms, and they established themselves just like God said, because Joshua did just what God said. And he was strong and he was courageous. I admire Joshua here. You know, he wasn't trained to fight in battles that we know of. He wasn't trained with great general skills and how to map out a war, a battle. I mean, God just led him here. And he told him, just go. And I'll be with you and I will help you along the way. And I think what it is God says, you know, he's looking for the willing, not the able. Because God takes the willing and he makes them able. And so I just throw out the question to us today that I've been wrestling with is, am I willing to go? Am I willing to do what God asked me to do? And it's really just a question each of us has to answer independently. Am I willing? See, God will make you able to accomplish what it is he sets before you, but am I willing is the question we have. Because are we willing to live on mission? Are we willing to live on mission and to live out our mission? God's looking for those that are willing. He'll make them able. And I think God's advice to Joshua that day is applicable to us as well. Be strong and courageous. Be strong and courageous, he tells them. Now let's look at those 2 words. The words strong and courageous. And I want you to think of some synonyms. To think of some words that come to your mind that are the same as the word strong and courageous. And talk to the person next to you. What's a word that comes to mind? You think of strong and you think of the word courageous. Go ahead and talk amongst yourselves. All right, so what's another word for strong? Powerful. Another word for strong. Mighty. Good. What? Jack? Firm. Resolute. You know, to be strong is to maybe stand your ground, right? How about courageous? What did we start with? Brave, good. Fearless, yes. Yeah. The others? What's that? Say it again. Fireman. Okay. Yes. Yes. Great example. Great example. Every boy wanted to be a fireman when they were little, man, because they are just brave. They're courageous. They're fearless, right? I mean, that is so true. Yeah, so with those words, you know, and whether it be that we are strong to take a stand, or we're to step out, or we're to lead, and we're to trust God, we're to be stretched a little bit as we go on mission, or to be courageous, to be different, to share our story with somebody, to talk with a stranger and ask them how you can pray for them. I mean, that takes courage to do these things. A friend of mine, he was a student a number of years ago. His name is Luke Nevins, and he, before one year, I think mid-semester, I challenged him to start something called a focus group in fraternities around campus, and just casted that vision for him. He took it, hook, line, and sinker. And I mean, he went for it. And in essence, what this was he called up a fraternity, and he wasn't a member in any fraternity, and he just said, hey, I'd love to lead out a survey, had them think about just real simple questions about that had to do with
life, relationships, and God, and then led a discussion asking them to share with one another what they thought on those issues. And they had great discussion. And brothers, I think, bonded together as they began to get to know one another on a deeper level about what people believed. I think also they got to articulate what they believed, and maybe they weren't living out what they were believing in, but they all had like similar views or conservative views. And at the end of the time, they asked Luke, what do you think? What do you believe? He said, I wouldn't come in to share what I think, but if you want me to come back next week, I'll come back next week. And so they invited him to come back next week. And so then he took the Bible and he then showed what he thought about these answers based on what the Bible said. They loved it. And in a couple of them, a couple of the groups, he came back again after that and after that. And they began to, what kind of happened was we'd call like a Bible study of sorts. And God's Word just, I go, man, he didn't back down when I gave him that challenge. He was courageous to go. I mean, he knew some people, but he didn't know that many people. He wasn't a part of any of those groups, but he went for it and he started these groups, and God's Word was proclaimed in those fraternities that he went to. Yeah, I mean, he was courageous to do something he'd never done before. And come to find out, he learned that he loved leading small groups and leading discussion and getting people to talk and think together and think deeper about things. If you're a follower of Christ, I think God wants to use you, and he wants you to be strong and courageous and to live on mission. And here's God's promise to you. He gave a promise to Joshua. Here's God's promise to you in 2 Timothy, where he says to believers, he says, for the Spirit God gave us does not make us timid, but gives us power, love, and self-discipline. Do you know that at your conversion, when you were baptized, God said he gave you his Spirit, the Spirit.
Agape, unconditional love, and it's self-discipline. And that right there says God promises that if you go, if you live on mission, if you live out what he's called you to do, to serve other people, to love other people, to talk to other people about Jesus, right? To use your gifts and your abilities and your passions to find a way to allow the gospel, which is the good news of Jesus Christ, to go forth to other people. He said, I will give you the words to say. I'll give you the strength. I'll give you the power to do that and to make a difference. You might think, like I know I have, I don't know what my abilities, my passions, and how those all work together. I don't know what my mission is exactly. And it's understandable. But would you pull out that envelope right here? I don't open it. But inside that envelope is a mission possible challenge. They're not all the same. But I believe God has placed the one in your hand for you. And I want to challenge you to think about living on mission and being courageous and opening that envelope, not now. And if you open it, I want you to know what you're saying is I'm going to do what it says inside it. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. To live courageously and to believe God's word, to believe that he has the Spirit that lives in you that will give you the power to do whatever it says, will only be truly tested once you open it and once you commit to then doing what it says and living on mission. I also believe that oftentimes we don't know how our abilities and our passions work together with God's mission until we actually do something. My wife Cheryl, when she was a student, was challenged by their campus minister to start a small group called Freshman Girls Group. Never been done before. Come up with a curriculum and lead it. And she did. And she found out she really likes leading small groups and leading discussions like that. When I was a student, I got to help our campus minister plan a winter retreat and organize all the details and kind of help bring it all together. And he was the big idea guy, and I was the get it done guy. And I realized God wanted to use my organizational, my administrative abilities, and I got to live it out. And I went, wow, this was cool. If I didn't have that experience, I wouldn't have known how God wired me, was going to use me on mission. Likewise, you might not know either. And maybe the mission that's in that card is going to give you a glimpse into how he wants to use you in your future, now, and the days to come. Because I think it would be just awesome if we as a community embarked on living out our part of God's greater mission. And I think that there's the opportunity to make a difference on this campus, in this community, and in this world when we decide to take our faith and live it out before other people. And take our faith and do something with it outside of these walls and gatherings like this. And that's when we're talking about living on mission. We're talking about trusting God, right? That was our and recognizing the excuses that are popping up and saying, well, I don't know if I'm made for this. You might open that and go, well, that's not me. That's the point. And because when it's not about you, it's actually about what God wants to do through you, then you get to watch God use you, and you can't take any of the credit. That's the best place to be. That's the best place to be. No more excuses, just trusting God and going out on mission. Being courageous for Christ is what we want to be about here. Wouldn't it be cool if a community like this just started a ripple effect across campus, of whether it be doing acts of kindness or talking about our faith, praying for other people, or doing things like that, being integrated into campus in unique ways, and starting different Bible studies, all because we decided we're going to live on mission. We're going to live out our faith. Man, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. Scary, yeah, but that's actually the cool part. It's like living on the edge. That's exciting. It's like jumping out of a plane. It's exciting. It's a rush. Never met anybody who said they'd never do that again. Actually, a person I met said they'd do that again. That's living on the edge. That's living courageously for Christ. I want to give you some time as you're holding on to that card. And like I said, I don't want you to take it lightly. And feel free. If you're like, this isn't for me. There's a trash can on the way out. Toss it. Or just secretly take it home and then toss it. You don't want people to know you tossed it. That's cool too. But we're going to break into groups here. And I want to just invite you to find somebody next to you, and find two other people you don't know. And this is a way to mix things up a little bit. We're going to have some questions on the screen like we've done in the past. And we want you to talk through about, being courageous. And then talk about, why should I open this thing? Or what are my hesitations in opening this? And what's holding me back from living on mission? Okay? So why don't we spend 10 minutes or so in our groups? And so why don't you find some people around you, find some people you don't know. Hey guys, we're going to give you about 2 minutes left, so if you want to go ahead and wrap up and pray with your group, that'd be really awesome. Thanks, Tim. So as we're kind of wrapping up tonight, I'd love to just let you know that that obviously, like college students, we don't really always have a lot, but there's a lot of people that don't really have anything. And so as a ministry, we're choosing a